Welcome to our deep dive into the Quran.
Yes.
Today we're going to be focusing on just a single verse,
Oh, wow.
but it's a really powerful one.
Okay.
It's verse 114 of Surah An-Nas,
Mm-hmm.
which is the very last verse of the entire Quran.
Oh, wow.
It's known as the verse of seeking refuge, and you'll see why in a moment.
Okay.
So what do you think is fascinating about this verse?
Well, I think what's fascinating is that the placement of this verse at the very end suggests it's meant to be something we carry with us always, a final reminder of the challenges we face and the tools we have to overcome them.
That's really cool. So before we unpack all that, let me read the verse for you.
Okay.
Straight from the Clear Quine edition.
All right.
Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of mankind,
Mm-hmm.
the King of mankind,
Yeah.
the God of mankind,
Mm-hmm.
from the evil of the sneaky whisperer,
Okay.
who whispers into the hearts of people,
Yeah.
among jinn and among people.
Wow.
So there's a lot to unpack there.
There certainly is. And that repetition right at the beginning, the emphasis on mankind, is really striking. It's almost like a universal call reminding us that regardless of who we are, where we come from, we all share this fundamental need for protection.
Right. Because we all face these sneaky whisperers.
Exactly.
It's not just a problem for some people. It's a universal human experience.
Mm-hmm.
But who exactly are these whisperers?
Traditionally, the sneaky whisperer is understood to be Satan or the devil, the embodiment of temptation and evil. But it can also be interpreted more broadly to encompass any negative influence that tries to lead us astray.
So it's not just some horny figure
Right.
on your shoulder.
Yeah.
It could be those doubts that creep into your mind.
Exactly.
The temptations that pull you away from your goals.
Yeah.
Even those negative thoughts that make you question yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Those can all be whispers too, right?
Absolutely. And that's what makes this verse so relevant to our days' lives. We're constantly bombarded by messages, by influences that try to steer us in different directions. Some are obvious, but others are subtle, almost insidious, whispering doubts and anxieties into our hearts.
Okay, so we've got these whisperers coming at us from all sides.
Right.
But then the verse gets even more intriguing when it mentions jinn and among people.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
This part is where things get really interesting and potentially a little spooky for some people. It's introducing this idea that negative influences can come from both supernatural and human sources.
Okay, hold on. We need to break this down.
Sure.
Jinn.
Yeah.
For those who are hearing this for the first time, can you explain what jinn are in Islamic tradition?
The Quran describes jinn as beings created from smokeless fire.
Okay.
Unlike humans who are made from clay, they exist on a different plane of existence, invisible to us, but capable of interacting with our world.
Okay.
And just like humans, they have free will, meaning they can choose to be good or evil.
So it's not like those genies in stories
No.
granting wishes.
Or-
These are more like unseen beings with their own agendas.
Exactly.
Some good, some bad.
And that's what makes them so fascinating and a bit unsettling. The verse suggests that some jinn might whisper to us, tempting us towards negative thought or actions.
So we've got Satan, we've got potentially mischievous jinn,
Yeah.
and then it says among people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're surrounded.
Yeah.
But why would people whisper to us in this negative way?
This part of the verse highlights that sometimes the most dangerous influences come from those closest to us. It could be people who manipulate us,
Yeah.
who try to bring us down, who plant seeds of doubt or negativity in our minds.
It's almost like it's saying, hey, be careful who you trust, who you listen to, because even those closest to you can be sources of those negative whispers.
It's a powerful reminder that discerning between good and bad influences is crucial. And that brings us back to the beginning of the verse. Say, I seek refuge.
Right.
It's offering us a solution, a way to navigate this complex landscape of temptations and influences.
This is where I think a lot of people struggle, though.
Yeah.
Seeking refuge. It sounds almost passive, like hiding away from the world.
Right.
How do we actively do that in our daily lives?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that help with these whispers, whether they're coming from jinn or from people? I think that's what we need to unpack next.
You've hit on a really important point there. Seeking refuge isn't about hiding from the world or being passive. It's about actively strengthening our inner resilience, building up our defenses against those whispers.
So it's more like a proactive thing,
Yeah,
like fortifying your mind so those whispers can't take root.
exactly. Imagine it as building a mental fortress.
Okay.
The stronger your walls, the better you'll be able to withstand those negative influences, whether they're from external sources or from your own doubts and insecurities.
Okay, I like that analogy. But how do we actually build that fortress?
Right.
What are the bricks and mortar, so to speak, of seeking refuge in this context?
Well, the verse itself gives us a clue. It starts with seeking refuge in the Lord of mankind, the King of mankind, the God of mankind. So connecting with a higher power, with Allah, in this case, is a key foundation.
So it's about acknowledging that we're not alone in this fight,
Yeah.
that we can draw strength and guidance from something bigger than ourselves.
That's a big part of it, but it's not just about passively hoping for protection. It's about actively engaging in practices that strengthen that connection, that align us with what's good and right.
So what are some of those practices? Give us
Ah.
the specifics. How do we translate this abstract concept of seeking refuge into tangible actions?
One of the most powerful practices, of course, is prayer. It's a direct line of communication with Allah, a way to express our need for guidance and support, to seek His protection from those whispers.
But it's not just about asking for things, right? It's about cultivating that sense of connection, of presence, of remembering that we're not in this alone.
Precisely. It's about establishing that relationship, that sense of reliance on something greater than ourselves. And the more we cultivate that connection through prayer, the stronger our inner defenses become.
I see. It's like building a muscle, the muscle of faith.
Yeah,
The more you work it, the stronger it gets.
right.
But what about beyond prayer?
Sure.
What other tools can we use to build up that mental fortress?
Another powerful tool is reading and reflecting on the Quran itself. It's a source of guidance, of wisdom, of reminders about what's truly important.
So it's not just about blindly following rules.
Right.
It's about gaining deeper understanding,
Yeah,
which can then help us make better choices in the face of those whispers.
exactly. When you understand the why behind the guidance, it becomes easier to resist those temptations that try to lure you off course. It's like having a map and compass when navigating through a tricky forest.
Okay, so prayer, reading the Quran, these are all internal practices.
Mhm.
But what about our actions in the world? Does how we treat others, how we behave, play into this whole seeking refuge thing?
Absolutely. The Quran emphasizes the importance of kindness, compassion, generosity, and justice. These actions aren't just good deeds, they're also ways to strengthen our inner resistance to negativity.
It's like by putting good out into the world, you're reinforcing the good within yourself,
Yeah.
making those whispers of selfishness or greed less appealing.
Exactly. When you align your actions with your values, you create a sense of harmony, of integrity that makes it harder for those whispers to take hold. It's like you're building a positive momentum, an upward spiral that lifts you further away from those negative influences.
This is starting to paint a much clearer picture for me. It's not just about saying, I seek refuge. It's about weaving it into the fabric of your life through prayer, through understanding your faith, through choosing actions that align with your values.
And that's where the real power of this verse lies. It's a call to action, an invitation to build a life that is resilient to those whispers, to those temptations, to those forces that try to pull us off course.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Prayer, reading the Quran, acting with kindness and compassion. But I still keep coming back to that initial question. How do we actually recognize those whispers in the first place?
Right.
How do we tell the difference between our own thoughts and desires and those sneaky suggestions that are trying to lead us astray?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And there are no easy answers, but one way to approach it is to look at the intention behind those thoughts. Where are they leading you?
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that. What do you mean by intention? How do we unpack that in a practical way?
Well, let's imagine a scenario you're feeling really envious of a friend's success. Now, that envy could lead you down a couple of different paths.
Oh, I know this feeling all too well. So what are those different paths and how do we know which one is being influenced by those whispers?
One path fueled by those negative whispers might lead you to resentment, bitterness, maybe even trying to sabotage your friend's success.
That's definitely not the good path. It sounds like those whispers are playing right into our own insecurities and fears.
Right, but there's another path that envy could lead you down, one that's more aligned with seeking refuge. It's about recognizing those feelings of envy, but then asking yourself, what can I learn from this person's success? How can I use this as motivation to improve my own life?
So it's about shifting the focus from negativity and comparison to something more constructive, more positive.
Yeah.
Like using those whispers as a springboard for growth instead of letting them drag you down.
That's a great way to put it. It's about taking those whispers, those temptations, and transforming them into something that serves you, that helps you grow and evolve.
This is starting to make a lot more sense. It's about being mindful of those whispers, examining their intentions, and then making conscious choices about which path to follow.
Exactly. And the more we practice this, the more discerning we become, the easier it is to recognize those whispers for what they are and to choose the path that leads us towards good, towards growth, towards aligning ourselves with our values and with a higher purpose.
This has been so insightful. I feel like we've really unpacked the layers of this verse and what it means to truly seek refuge. But I'm curious, what about those jinn? We talked about them earlier, but I'd love to dive deeper into their role in all of this. All right, let's get back to those jinn. I think a lot of people hear that word and imagine genies popping out of lamps, but we're talking about something a bit more nuanced, right?
Definitely. The jinn are a fascinating part of Islamic cosmology, and understanding their nature can add another layer of depth to our understanding of this verse.
Okay, so reminder for our listener, what exactly are jinn? What are their defining characteristics?
Remember, the verse mentions they are created from smokeless fire. That's a key distinction from humans who are made from clay or angels made from light. It suggests a different kind of existence, a more subtle, perhaps even ethereal nature.
So not little fire demons running around.
Not quite, although some interpretations do describe them as having physical forms, often shape-shifting, but the core idea is that they exist on a different plane, invisible to us, yet still capable of interacting with our world.
That's where it gets a little spooky, right? Like, what are they doing out there? And why would they be whispering to us?
Well, the Quran tells us that jinn, just like humans, have free will. They can choose to be good or evil, to follow God or to rebel.
So some jinn are good, some are bad, just like us humans, but what would make them whisper to us? What do they get out of it?
That's a question that has been debated for centuries. Some scholars suggest that evil jinn might whisper to humans out of spite, wanting to lead us astray away from God's path. Others link it to a desire for power to influence and manipulate humans for their own purposes.
It's like unseen puppet masters trying to control us from the shadows. That's a pretty unsettling thought.
It can be. But the Quran also emphasizes that we have the power to choose whether to listen to those whispers or not. We're not helpless puppets. We have free will, and ultimately the responsibility for our actions lies with us.
So even if there are jinn out there whispering all sorts of crazy stuff, it's up to us to shut them out, to make the right choices, to seek refuge in Allah, and resist those temptations.
Exactly, and that brings us back to the power of verse 114. It's not just a warning about unseen forces. It's a reminder that we have the tools to overcome them, whether those whispers are coming from jinn, from other people, or even from our own doubts and fears. We have the ability to recognize them, to examine their intentions, and to choose a different path.
It sounds like a lot long practice, though, this whole seeking refuge thing. It's not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing effort to stay aware, to make conscious choices, to build up our resilience against those negative influences.
You could say that, but the beauty of verse 114 is that it offers this incredible comfort, the idea that no matter what we face, no matter how loud those whispers get, we're not alone in the fight. We have the support of Allah, we have the guidance of the Quran, and we have the power within ourselves to choose good over evil, to silence those whispers, and to create a life filled with purpose and meaning.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like we've not only explored the meaning of this powerful verse, but also gained some really practical insights into how to apply it to our daily lives.
And that's what's so remarkable about the Quran. It's not just an ancient text, it's a living guide offering wisdom and guidance that's just as relevant today as it was centuries ago.
So to our listener, if you find yourself struggling with those sneaky whispers, whether they seem to be coming from within or from external sources, remember the message of Surah An-Nas, verse 114. Seek refuge, strengthen your connection with your faith, examine the intendants behind those whispers, and choose the path that leads you towards good, towards growth, towards the best version of yourself. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and may you always find strength and guidance on your journey.